Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today, trying to make some sense out of yesterday's biggest story in wrestling. Basically, that WWE is looking to buy ROH, and this is in the early parts of the story here. There's nothing signed. There's no contracts. They're basically just trying to work out how much money it would take and what would happen and this, that, and the other. The reason listening to Wrestling Observer today, Dave Meltzer gave, was that WWE was trying to limit its competition by taking out Ring of Honor. There was a lot of rumors just a few months ago when the whole Billy Corgan and TNA thing came out that WWE was looking to buy TNA, and that was one of the reasons that they were looking to buy it, was just to get the tape library and just basically finally shut down this company that's been running in opposition to them for so many years. And honestly, in my mind, I can understand wanting to own the TNA tape library. I can understand wanting to own the ROH tape library. There's a lot of wrestlers. I mean, now I just got done talking about the NXT TakeOver event, thinking about Bobby Roode being the NXT champion. You've got all of the guys like Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is getting a DVD coming out really soon for WWE. And think if maybe they would have to go in and reschedule some things and plug some things around. But think if they were able to put some Kevin Steen matches on that DVD. I say some, but we all know that when WWE makes a DVD on a past person, they might put one past match from a former organization that they used to work into. When the Eddie Guerrero DVD came out, they put a match that they didn't own from a pay-per-view. What was it called? War of the Worlds? I don't think that was the right name, but it was something like that, which was a very famous show that was ran in LA years ago, and it's one of the things that put Eddie Guerrero on the map for American wrestling fans who didn't know who he was. To me, honestly, I don't really understand. I can understand if maybe Sinclair bought ROH and they decided they wanted to run a wrestling company because wrestling does well on the Sinclair channel. But since then, people have sort of said that they wish ROH would put more money into the company, or Sinclair would put more money into ROH. For better lighting, the television just looks really weird when they do it. Since then, ROH has lost a lot of big name wrestlers. They've also been able to sign a lot of wrestlers and bring people in like Marty Scurll, Will Ospreay, and replenish the roster. But at the same time, they're having to go into these, I think it's a lack of a better term, bidding wars in order to bring these big names in. And also at the same time be able to have them split time between New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor, that, this wrestling company that was supposed to be a small part of the company is becoming a bigger time deal. It makes sense for a wrestling for a TV network to own a wrestling company, since then we've seen the Fight Network buy TNA Wrestling, and they're going to be able to run that, and we'll have to see how that works out in the long run. But to me, I'm sure ROH, when they do house shows and they do shows, I'm sure they're able to sell a lot of merch. I'm sure they're still selling DVDs. I really don't know, because I don't have a Sinclair channel here in my network range where I'm at. I don't get to see ROH television on a weekly basis. I do hear reviews of it from Brian and Vinny. I believe they upload those on Sundays. I'm able to follow what's going on a little bit whenever they do an ROH pay-per-view. Most of the time I do check out at least the main match of the show to just somewhat follow along with what is going on inside of the company. But to me, I don't really understand how ROH is really competition to WWE. I don't even really follow how TNA is competition to WWE as well. TNA isn't even showing up and doing a house show in Orlando the week of WrestleMania, when with so many wrestling fans that are going to be there, so many fans who never get to see TNA, I'm sure they would go see a show to be there. I haven't been to a TNA show since Bound for Glory, I believe 2013, but they do fan interaction so well, especially with Don West being back in the mix. I'm sure that he'd be able to sell T-shirts and DVDs, sell all sorts of things to get VIP tickets to meet the wrestlers in the back, and do things like that they would be able to bring money into the company, as well as bring fans to the company that probably haven't seen it in a long time. When ROH comes to WrestleMania, I think they normally do 2 shows. They normally do like a pay-per-view show, as well as do television. This year in Orlando, they aren't even in the city of Orlando. They're in Lakewood, Florida, which I believe, if I remember right from listening to podcasts, is at least a 45-minute drive from where most people are going to be staying. ROH was smart and able to acquire some buses and included it in the tickets to where you can get from Orlando to Lakewood, be able to see the Young Bucks go up against the Hardys, and that's a big main event that's going to make people want to jump on those buses and leave Orlando to see the show. I know that when they do SummerSlam weekend, ROH normally runs the baseball stadium, and through that they're able to make a really big show that people want to go see. Even though the wrestling in a baseball stadium has never really worked out that nice. You're not really going to be selling out because nobody's going to want to sit on the flagpole all the way on the side of the stadium where you're like at least 100 yards away from the ring. But they do, for the most part, fill that place out, and it is a big show. TNA used to run there before leaving it up in ROH, scooping that up. But there's been years. I can remember the first year that SummerSlam went to New York. ROH put on a really good show, bringing in New Japan talent, and I think that they had a better show than SummerSlam actually was, but everyone was talking about SummerSlam. Some hardcore fans made the trip. They went out and they saw the New Japan guys in ROH, and they got probably the best show of that weekend. But I really wouldn't put them as competition. I do understand that WWE might want to own the tape library, bring that in. They've already done it a few times. Like I think they've already got 3, maybe even 4 Best of Daniel Bryan DVDs. But if they were wanting to, put together some stuff, make a Best of Daniel Bryan, having the ROH tape library would really be able to give them, 5 or 6 really good matches, showing how good this guy was before he even came to WWE. But then again, that really wouldn't be able to show off what NXT and developmental did to help this guy. And at the same point, it would sort of work against them. But you have to sort of show that the guys were stars before they came to the company, and then became bigger stars once they made it there. Shutting down a company like Ring of Honor doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but as we've seen, TNA grew out of WCW closing down, and not having a place for all of these guys to go to work. So, Jeff Jarrett basically made his own place to go work, and he had dreams of what that company would become. And I don't think he really thought he would have left that company 2 or 3 times, and now here he is in charge 15 years later down the road. But it is what it is. So if I had to guess right now, I'm going to guess that what they're talking about is just talks, and WWE isn't going to be buying Ring of Honor anytime in the foreseeable future. But who knows? Maybe that company is losing money hands over fist and is draining the TV network to the point where they need to be able to dump it off. One of the reasons why WCW was sold to Vince out of the Turner AOL media group that it was in.